Hi, my name is Aaliyah, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. Today I'm going to talk about some books that I really like and would recommend reading that I would put under the genre of like fall theme, witchy, ghosts. They're lighter October books, so not horror, although some of them have some creepy themes in them. But for people that are looking for something to get in the fall mood or just a Halloween mood, but don't want to read anything too scary, too horror, that's kind of what this video is for. I'm going to do both graphic novels and books. I'm gonna start with some graphic novels. I have a few that I'm basically just going to mention but not really go into too much, and then some others that I'm going to talk about more in depth. So the first one is called Snapdragon, and the author is Cackle, and this book I would put in basically middle grade or YA. It's a little hard to tell. The main character I think is maybe around 8th grade. The book never says completely, but it's basically about a young girl that finds an older woman in the community that's kind of on the outside of the town, but she forms a friendship with the older woman, and there's a lot having to do with animals, and some of it's sad, but it's also just a really sweet book. And I have a few pages that I've kind of bookmarked to show. This is the little girl, and her name is Snapdragon. And then that's some baby opossums that are important for a bit of the story. Oh yeah, this is Snapdragon feeding one of the babies. So that's a little bit of this. And then the next one is this one. It's called Ghosts, and the author is Raina Telgemeier, and this book is basically about these sisters that moved to a small town in Northern California that has a lot of involvement with ghosts that come to visit around Day of the Dead. Everyone's aware of it, and it also has to do with the younger daughter and sister has cystic fibrosis, and so there is a lot that also has to do with the idea of the older one having a lot of anxiety and worrying about her sister and being afraid of the ghosts because the idea of something happening to her sister. And there's also a lot that has to do with culture and Day of the Dead. A lot of the community they moved to is Hispanic or Latino, and I would say probably Mexican, with everyone being very involved with Day of the Dead. And the two girls are half Hispanic or Latina. This is a picture of the younger girl doing one of her treatments for cystic fibrosis, and here's the kids with some of the ghosts. Okay, so my next one is digital, and this is called Cryptid Club, and it's originally from Webtoon, which is one of the various digital comic apps that people can basically self-publish, I believe, comics to that they've drawn. And there's a lot that have gone on to get published as actual printed books. Several that I'm going to mention have come from their webtooner Tapas. So this is written by Sarah Anderson, who's known for it's very well known art style. Hi Ziggy, my cat's come in. Hey buddy, you can get a, oh, you can't, I don't know about you getting on my lap. What are you doing? Okay, bye. Okay, so Cryptid Club is by Sarah Anderson, and I believe it's called like Scribbles or something. She has a very distinctive art style, and her comics are really well known. They're about like her life, I think. I've never actually read them. I just am familiar with them existing because they're well known. Anyways, so Cryptid Club is just a series of kind of unrelated, like 1 to 2 panel comics that are just about different cryptids, and they're just, you know, kind of funny, kind of cute situations. It doesn't tell any sort of overarching story or anything, but I did read it as an entire book, and it's just, you know, kind of cute and fun. Nothing deep, but just kind of, they're just cute. So I do recommend them just if you want something just kind of fun. I can't really do too much with the Tapas or Webtoon comics because they're very specific about the like copyright and everything. This just gives you an idea. This is one story. So they're just simple and cute and just kind of fun. So that's on Webtoon, which is just an app, and they're free. So you can just read the whole thing, everything that she's put out. And then my last one is kind of both of these. So this is the sequel, but both the book Sheets, and then this is the sequel called Delicates, and they are by Brenna Thumler. They are written and illustrated by her. So they are written and illustrated by her, and Sheets is about a teenage girl that the beginning is dealing with basically having to take care of herself and her younger brother because her mother died, and then dad just kind of became unable to take care of them because of death. And so she also ends up having to run their laundromat. She ends up having to run their laundromat business. So like she's, you know, doing a lot at a young age, and then also high school. She is dealing with the death of her mom, and also this kind of feeling of being invisible at school. And basically she finds or meets a little boy ghost that uses the sheets in her laundromat to appear. Like he uses it as his way to move around. And There's a lot more to it, but so like it's a sad story definitely at parts, but also it's just really good. And oh, Ziggy's back. Yeah? What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that is a part of one of the character's story in here. And I want to show the art style because it's just like a really nice, simple style that I like. So yeah, that was the main character, the girl with the blonde hair. So there's like another character that ends up being in this book, the sequel. And then there's a third book that's just come out basically now. I have not read that. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to talk about more in depth is one of my favorite comic series. I just always like rereading it. It's called Lumberjanes, and it's just like a really fun all ages series. I think it's appropriate for any age, and it's just really fun. So that's the cover to the first volume, and the people involved with it are N.D. Stevenson and Grace Ellis are main writers, at least at the beginning. I don't remember if they stayed with the series the whole way. And then Brooklyn Allen is at least the artist at the beginning. The whole series takes place during the summer, and it's set at a girls' kind of like a Girl Scout camp, like a wilderness camp. And it always starts with that's like their pledge, and it basically is looking like it would be out of their like guide handbook, but there's this one which is their intro, and then the chapters look like that, and the badge is basically talking about what they end up doing during that chapter. So it's kind of a little forewarning to what they're going to end up doing. So there's all kinds of mysterious things that happen in the woods, and this group of girls that we center on the most, they are basically always getting into trouble. They're very curious about what's happening and discovering all these mysteries, and definitely get to learn more as the series is going on, like that it's not just like little things, like there's definitely a lot more to it. And the older girl there, one in the long pants, is their basically like scout leader. I assume she's probably supposed to be a teenager, and they're all like middle school age, I think. And like she's very into rules, and this group of girls that she got are just always breaking all the rules. And so woman at the bottom there, that it was definitely modeled after Rosie the Riveter, is the one in charge of the whole camp. And this is just one of the things that happens, is them having to battle like Roman soldier statues. And then those are some Yetis. But their Yetis in here are very much like teenagers. Like they have attitude, like they're just too cool. So that's Lumberjane. It's just one of my favorite things to read, and I just feel like I can never read it too much, you know. I've definitely reread it a lot. So next is one called The Backstagers, and that is written by James Tinian IV, and the artists are Ryan Sigg and Walter Baiamonte. So this one is set in like a private high school theater department, and I believe it's an all boys school, and it starts with this boy that's in the bushes talking on the phone, moving or starting at this new school and, you know, not wanting to be there. So he's kind of forced by his mom to join some sort of activity, ends up choosing theater, and finds out that the backstage area actually has a lot more to it than you would think. Like, it's not just a normal backstage. Basically, all theater backstages lead to all of these other worlds. And there's a whole overarching story in Volume 1 and Volume 2 that I think is done really well. They go together really well, and the continuation from the Volume 1 to the Volume 2 and how it ties up is really good. There is a Volume 3, but I didn't think, it's basically just like extra stories, and they were really hit or miss, so I don't think Volume 3 is that necessary, but 1 and 2 are very good. So like, that's one of the other worlds with these birds having a tea party in their hats, and that's where they get some of their paint for painting backdrops, this rainbow paint. So that is The Backstagers. Next is this one. It's called Anya's Ghost, and the author is Vera Brosgol, and this I would call probably YA. Main character is in high school, and both the author and the main character are Russian in America, so they are both immigrants. Yeah, the author mentions in their biography being born in Russia, and then the main character, their mother is doing American citizenship test in the story. So I would say they also immigrated. So, you know, part of the story is definitely about the main character being a teenager and kind of trying to disconnect from her Russian heritage from her mother's connection to it in order to appear more American and to fit in better. So that's definitely a discussion within here, and just like how is she going to deal with the two parts of her? How is she going to deal with the two parts of her? And you know, that's an aspect of it. And then the other big thing is that she ends up coming upon a girl around her own age that is a ghost, and they become friends, but there's definitely a lot more to the ghost girl than it first seems, and there's just a lot of growing and changing that Anya displays as the story progresses, and accepting different parts of herself. And yeah, just like there's definitely a lot of changing, developing. And it's also just, you know, there's aspect of mystery with like who is the ghost girl. There's some danger to it. So this is the art style. That's the mom. That's Anya. That is Anya with her friend, who's like kind of a friend. And then there's her and the ghost girl. Okay. And then next is one that I recently reread and still really liked it. It's called Spectre and Spectres, and the author is Bowen McCurdy. Artist is Caitlin Musto, and right now there's only one volume out. I've been really hoping for more because it's only like 5 or 6 issues. I mean, it was a really well done storyline. Like it ended well. It was wrapped up in a good way. So if that's all that ever comes out of it, it at least was a full story. But I would really like more. Basically, it's these, I believe, based on context clues, that most of them are in their 20s. And then there's one that's a sibling to one of the other people and is a teenager. Basically, they're like online ghost hunters, you know, like make YouTube videos basically. And they end up going to this town, and that's what all of the issues that are out focus on, is this town that they've just driven to investigate, and they assume that it's just going to be a quick, normal investigation, but it ends up that I don't know if it would be considered a spoiler, so I'm just going to say that something happens to one of them, and they end up having to stay much longer in this town in order to get to the bottom of things and figure out what's going on. And so, you know, this is things that's happening, kind of gives a clue on, you know, what might have happened to one of the people. But, you know, it's creepy and it's interesting, but it's not something that I would ever put in horror. So I think it's just kind of, you know, creepy and fun. And I liked the whole online ghost hunters thing, and I thought characters were pretty well established in a quick amount of time. So yeah, I enjoyed that. Next is another one from Webtoons. This one also has an actual published book. It's called Crumbs. The author is Danny Sterling and is available as a collected book, but only up to a certain part of the story. I don't remember what, so it's just like a volume 1. At this point, the entire series, which is now complete on Webtoons, it is finished. That is available for free on Webtoons if you want to read the complete story. Otherwise, I'm sure it is going to be continuing to be published in book form. So this is set in a world that I would say is basically our world, except for there is magic, and it's just kind of that it's there, and it's just kind of a casual thing. It's just like some people do have magic and some people don't, but I don't know, it's not even a thing. And the main character is a seer, but at least at the beginning of the series, she is very self-conscious about her ability because unlike most seers, she cannot see into the future. She can see things that are currently happening. So like she says she can only see in the present. So she can see things that are, you know, in other locations, but only that are currently happening. And to her, that's not like good or useful, and centers on her and her developing ability. It also, there's a romance that's a big part of it, and I liked how it ended, which I'm obviously not going to go into too much detail about, but I liked how this dealt with what became this conflict basically of, do you go for something for yourself, for your career, what's going to help you, or do you stay with a relationship, or do you stay with a person? You know, there was that kind of a conflict, and I thought that was done well, and I liked it, and liked the direction it went. And I can't really show too much because, again, they don't really want anything being shared, but just want to show like and that's the main character. Okay, and then after that is one that's on Tapas. I found it originally on Hoopla. Some of it has come out in a volume collection, although on Tapas you can read everything that's come out so far. So there's a lot more that has been written than what's available as a book. This is written by Haley Newsome, and there's this witch that it starts out being about, and she's a kitchen witch, but then there's a few other witches and other types of characters, like other types of fantasy creatures that you end up meeting. And I would call this one also just kind of a more light read. There's nothing terribly heavy. There's not too much of a message or anything. It's just kind of a fun story about these different witches with different abilities, and they do have a storyline that's going right now. But yeah, I would just describe it as kind of a fun light read. So I enjoy just having kind of a fun witch read, because I do always like looking for witch books. That's one of my favorite things to read is witchy things. And yeah, this one is just kind of enjoyable, and I'm looking forward to more of it being published. Next is The Witch Boy, which is by Molly Knox Ostertag. This one I believe is also middle grade. And the series, I feel like, has been talked about a fair amount online. Boy on the cover is the main character. And this is at the front of the book. This is a family tree, which is very important because this book is about family and magic that runs through the whole family, and how they are trained for magic based on boys have a certain type of magic and girls have a certain type of magic, and they're not allowed to learn each other's magic. And it's like a really bad thing for the main character. He's not really interested in doing the shape-shifting, which is what the boys are supposed to do, but he's very interested in the girls' witchcraft, and he's always trying to learn it, but it's something that is causing a lot of trouble within the family because it's like a many generations long thing. The magic and everything that they practice. And you learn further in the other series, because I've read all 3 books that are in the series, that there's other families and other communities that are part of this magical community, and they all do the same thing of separating the magic by gender. Like, that's just a thing that's done. And so this is about the main boy wanting to go against what's been practiced for generations, and also this threat that's starting to attack his family. So that's him talking with his mom, and also this friend that he makes, that's his friend, and she's human, like she doesn't have magic or know about it, but then he starts to become friends with her, and like he's never really been friends with anyone outside of his family or outside of their like little community. So that is one of the like rituals that the boys have to do, and that's just an example of the shape-shifting. So I've read all 3 books in the series, and I'm pretty sure that the second was the one that I liked the most. It's been a bit since I've read them all, so I can't say for certain, but I liked all 3 of them. They all worked pretty well together, and continued the story and everything. I think this first one is really good in terms of establishing what are magical rules of the world of the family and community and everything, and also making you interested in the characters and like care about them. Okay, so this is my last graphic novel that I'm going to talk about, and this is called Witchy. The author is Ariel Slamet Rees, and they are Australian, and their bio said that they live on Aboriginal land. I am not sure if they are Indigenous. They have also said that all of the characters in this book are Asian or from oceanic cultures. It's a fantasy world, but they did kind of use features and base off of real cultures, you can tell, based on some of the clothing and style and everything. You can see the inside pattern, it's really pretty. And then this map, the lettering that they used is really cool that they came up with, because it definitely resembles some languages, some written languages that do exist. So this is about a girl that I think is probably about graduating high school age, and her whole, I don't know, I guess it's maybe the whole world she lives in. I don't know how far it extends to, but the area that she lives in, they have magic that is connected to hair length. And the longer your hair, that signifies the more magic you have. And it also means like you have more like social power, like power within the government. There's a military that is a big part of their government, and basically all of them, all the students have to try out for it, and then I think it's basically if they're chosen, they have to be in it, which is something she very much does not want to do. So it's not really a spoiler because you find out at the beginning, but she has very long hair that when she goes out into public, she makes it look short because she does not want people to know that she has the capability to do more. She doesn't want to get chosen. That's the teacher doing some magic. And then, you know, some stuff happens and she ends up having to go on her own, and it's kind of how she does on her own. There's not much more without spoilers. So I've read volume 1 and 2. I don't think there's any more yet. Okay, so now I'm getting to the books, and for the digital ones, I'm just gonna put covers up when I'm editing. So first I have Aru Shah and the End of Time, which is the first in the series. I've read all but the last 2, and this is by Roshni Chakshi, and she is Indian and Filipina. And then this series is based on kind of her spin on the Indian stories she was told by her grandmother, is what she has said. And the main character's name is Aru Shah, and this first one focuses on basically just 2 characters, but as the series goes on, there's more that become a part of it. It's a middle grade, and I have found them to be really fun and easy to read and interesting to get a little bit about Hindu religion and some of these Indian stories. There's like hero tales that are a big part of it. And when I was looking at Goodreads, I definitely saw mixed opinions from Indian readers and reviewers. Some were really happy to see an Indian writer writing Indian stories, and then there were people that felt like a currently practiced religion shouldn't be written about like it's mythology, and so they were unhappy with the inaccuracies and how they felt it was made to be kind of like silly. So there's definitely mixed opinions on it. As someone that does not practice that religion, or, you know, I'm also not Indian, I can't say from that point of view, but just as a reader, I really enjoy the series. I have found the development of the characters, how they've changed and grown, also be really interesting. And every single one of the books has had a really satisfying adventure and wraps up and everything. So I really like these, and I would have put it more in my main section, except for I just feel like it doesn't quite fit in the theme. There's that. And then my next one is a book called Spirit Hunters by Ellen O. It's middle grade, and it basically centers on like a possession and dealing with an exorcism and everything. But the interesting thing is it's not dealing with that in a Christian or Catholic way, because that's always what exorcism is. This is a half Korean main character, the young girl, and her Korean grandmother, who is Buddhist, practices exorcisms and like knows how to do things having to do with ghosts and everything. And so she is important in what happens within the book. And so this is dealing with ghosts and exorcism from a Buddhist perspective. Like, what do they believe and how do they deal with it? And that is also just a difference, you know, when all we ever see in media is how it's dealt with in Christianity. Like, even when the religion isn't important to the character, it's still, that's all that's ever used. So, you know, that's interesting. I liked that. And it's also just a fun, creepy book, but that's not too scary or anything like that. So it's that. Then this one is called Potkin and Stubbs, and it's by Sophie Green. And this is basically, this one also I would say is middle grade. And I would say it's kind of set in like a, kind of like a noir, almost post-apocalyptic world, like a world that you would see only gray, like kind of dingy and gray. And it focuses on the main child, a teenage girl, and she wants to be a journalist, and then she ends up meeting a boy around her age who is a ghost, but he doesn't really know how he died or anything, so they end up trying to figure that out. And that's part of it, and you know, it has to do with also kind of the darkness in the city and what's going on, trying to figure things out and investigate and all of that. So that's that one. And then Small Spaces, which I'm currently rereading right now. There's like at least 2 more in the series right now. This is by Catherine Arden, and this is middle grade, and it's set in middle school, I believe. And one of the things that I personally like about this, I know some people don't like books that go between times, but this goes between the current time and then reading a journal from, I think it was like the 1800s or maybe the early 1900s, something like that. Reading that, and the main character is reading that, and that is informing some of the things that are happening currently. And basically there's like 3 main kids that we stay with, and then there's a bunch of kids that go missing. They have to try and hide from these scarecrows that have come alive. And it's basically if you're anywhere in the open. Yeah, I don't exactly remember, but I believe it's that they have to stay out of the open or they'll be like disappeared. And there's a lot more to it. There's also an aspect of it that is dealing with her mom that had died, I think, the year previous. That's a big part of it. But I remember really liking the atmosphere and how it was, it's for kids, but it still managed to have a really good, creepy, a little bit scary atmosphere. Like, it definitely is good for kids that like scary books and adults that want something a little bit scary, but not too much. And I mean, I like adult horror, but I also like sometimes things that are just like a little bit, just kind of got that atmosphere, but I'm not actually going to get scared of it or anything. And I definitely feel like Small Spaces fulfills that. So next is a book called Deadly Inside Scoop. That's the first book, and then the second in the series, which I've also read, is called Game of Cones. The author is Abby Collette, and this is a cozy mystery series, so I enjoy reading those. And one kind of nice thing that sets this a little bit separate from most cozy mystery series is that the author is a Black woman and the main character is a Black woman. And just an observation that I've noticed from reading a fair bit of cozy mystery is they are usually written by white women, starring white women. That's just, I'm not saying every single one is, but that does kind of seem to be a majority. And, it's nice for there to be a bit more representation. So, just something to point out. So the main character, her name is Bronwyn, and she goes by Wyn. And the first book starts with her going back to her hometown to open up her family's ice cream shop that had run for a while and then had shut down at one point. And she is now going to be in charge of it. And there ends up being a murder that could have a connection to her family, and so she gets involved with it. I really found both books. I did them both only through audio. The audiobooks were really good for both of them. It's the same narrator for both of them. And the story is just really good, and it was interesting. I wanted to continue to listen and find out what was happening. The characters are well written and enjoyable. I tend to find that cozy mysteries, I have kind of a low expectation for them. Like, they don't necessarily have to be the best writing and they can still be enjoyable, but I thought these were written well, and I'm definitely going to read or listen to the last one, the last one that's out. So I'm gonna continue with it. Next one is called Karma Moon Ghost Hunter, and it's by Melissa Savage. It's a middle grade, and it's got paranormal aspect to it, but like I would probably call it more mystery because most of it centers around mystery. And besides that it deals with investigating a big mystery, like that's the main aspect. Another big part of it for the main character, whose name is Karma Moon, is her dealing with anxiety and also dealing with how she feels that it's just her and her dad because her mom left them. I don't remember how long ago it was in the book, but there's a lot throughout the book with her dealing with her feelings about it. And I liked the way her character was written and how her emotions were written and her changing emotions and feelings towards her situation. I would say it felt fairly realistic. And then the mystery aspect of it, I really enjoyed. I thought it was really, I really enjoyed the mystery aspect of it. It kept me wanting to read it, and I think the way it ended was satisfying because it can be hard with mysteries in terms of how they wrap them up. It kind of seemed like it was preparing for there to be another book, but I looked and it doesn't seem like there is going to be another one. I would kind of like for there to be another, but I'm not sure if there will be or not. This takes place at a like old hotel, and Karma's dad is basically shooting a ghost hunting show for, I don't know if they actually say Netflix or if it's something like Netflix, but for a streaming service. They're creating a TV show, and Karma has gone with her dad to actually help with that and brings her friend along. So they get to stay in this supposedly haunted hotel and then try and figure out all these weird things that are happening. And yeah, basically what's going on with that. So this one is called Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow, and it's by Jessica Townsend, and it's the first in a series. I don't remember how many are out now, but there's quite a few, and I've read everything that's come out. This one's also middle grade, and it's like kind of magical school. It's also, I was thinking aspects of it are similar to Mari and the Night Brothers, because the main character, Morrigan Crow, her magic is something that is not okay in the world that she ends up coming into. She is living in one world basically, and then gets brought into this more magical place in order to do these magical trials to see if she'll get accepted into this, they're like a group, an organization. And one of the things that happens is the fact that she has magic, but it's not an acceptable kind. And so that becomes a problem in later books that's explored more. This one is more of doing the trials and everything, and meeting some of the other kids, and you know, what is the magic that they do, and getting to know this world and everything. It's a good, just like magical kid, magical world kind of book. It's really fun world, and there's a lot of different crazy characters in here. There's a very large cat that I like, and a lot of times she's grumpy, and the different aspects of the world that the authors created are well done. And then how the series evolves is really good, how things become more complicated, and there's a really big pull for the character between what she wants, what she's going to do, if she's gonna, like, what is the right thing to do. So, and then an adult light fantasy, maybe, it's called Cackle, and it's by Rachel Harrison. I think it was last year. A lot of people I saw online did not like this book, but I actually really liked it. I think I gave it like a 4 or 5 stars on Goodreads. So I don't know, there's a few things last year where like everyone was saying how horrible they were, but I liked them. So this focuses, like, this has a lot of aspects, I would say, that it's kind of like literary fiction, which is maybe why some people were just not into it, because in some ways it does just kind of move a little bit slow, and I would say there's not a lot of action, but it's about a woman kind of finding herself, because she has always defined herself by her relationship that just ended, and other relationships that she's been in, basically just by the men she was dating. And I believe she was in her 30s. I don't exactly remember. But so it was kind of about her finding some independence, figuring out who she was. She moved to a new town that she'd never been to, and meets this mysterious woman that it seems like maybe she has some magic about her, maybe she doesn't. It's a bit unsure, and some strange things start happening to the main woman. I really liked it despite the whole no action happening, really. I liked the evolution of the main woman and how she changed, how she learned who she was and what she wanted and everything. And I'm not completely sure what I thought of the end. I didn't dislike it. I don't know. I think I liked it. I thought it was a good pace for, you know, it's just, this is the type of book it is, and you just kind of have to know that going in. Okay, and then this is my last one for this video. I'm also going to do a separate horror one for my horror comic books and my horror books. So, oh wait, no, I skipped one. So, 2. I skipped Graveyard Book. So I'm going to say that one real quick too. The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. He's one of my favorite authors, but I still don't know how to say his last name, if it's Gaiman or Gaiman. It's one of those. This one is a middle grade. So he writes all over the genre, age range. It does start off with a baby's whole family being killed, but like other than that, it's like okay for children. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read it, but I don't think it was all that graphic. It's basically about that little baby as a boy being raised by the ghosts and other inhabitants of a graveyard that was near his family's house. And you just see his life as he's growing up, and just kind of through short, like little, like stopping into his life, you just kind of drop in. I believe someone had called them vignettes. Like I said, it's been a while since I've read it, so I don't remember if they actually are vignettes, or it's a sweet story, and just kind of about like family and what is family, And there's a little bit of mystery and action because there is still someone pursuing the boy. The person who killed his family is still trying to find him. But I don't know that that's exactly the main part of it. It's just like a part of it. So then my last one is Witchlings, which is by Clarabelle A. Ortega. It's middle grade and fantasy. This one is by the same author, but different book. But I also would say, you know, this was a good book. So this is Ghost Squad. I don't own Witchlings, but I just wanted to show this one too. Witchlings is set in a world with magic. Everyone has magic, but to different degrees. And the people with more magic have more power in the world and they're like higher status. There's also like a test that everyone has to do as like middle school age. I think that's what these girls it focuses on. They're around that age, and it puts them into a group that they're gonna always be a part of, and it's based on their magical ability, and it's kind of a big deal what they're put in. And the main three girls get put in this group that basically means they're gonna be disadvantaged within their community and not really be able to do a whole lot of anything unless they do this big challenge. And so they accept this challenge to try and be able to have some amount of power. And that's kind of what it focuses on. And then there's some, you know, big bad stuff going on. And it's very interesting how this book deals with the idea of power inequality within a community, within a world. You know, it very much is using magic as a way to talk about money and power in our world, and how the people that have power, what are some of the things they maybe did to get it, and how people that started out the disadvantage, how basically there is no way for them to get up to where people that were born at an advantage are. Like, it definitely talks about these topics that you would think are too above middle schoolers' comprehension, but is done using magic, and I think is done in a way that they would be able to understand. So, and it didn't feel like heavy-handed either. So I thought that was really interesting. Like, I definitely think that that's what the author was trying to say. So those are all the comics and books that I would recommend for this video. And then I'm going to also do one for horror, so things that are a lot more like gruesome and like more difficult topics. Like, some of these I would say have some difficult topics, and a lot of the horror is like you need to actually be okay with those kind of topics and stuff. So thank you for watching this, if you watched all the way through, and if you like this, like the video, and you can also subscribe for more videos. I post my animals a lot, so you can also watch my animal videos.